This video is brought to you by Squarespace. What's up guys, Carmine here, and welcome to my Season 8 Episode 2 review. Now this episode did leak early, but I managed to keep myself away from it long enough. Remember guys, as tempting as it might be, try and resist and finish out the series together with everybody else. It really is a nice experience, especially since I live tweet during the episode, and would love it if you could join me for the rest of it on Twitter as well. That aside though, I thought the episode was slightly better than last week's and hit quite a few beats for me, especially the Jaime trial. And before we begin the review, let me just remind you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, ring that bell to stay notified for all future content on this channel, and be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed, and leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you thought of the episode for later on videos and my Q&A portion. But with all that out of the way, let's get right into it. Now this episode opens up with Jaime's trial, and I gotta say, this is one of my favorite parts of the episode. The beats that hit here for me were Bran's random one-liner coming in there, I loved it. Dany's mention of stories her brother told her, which is always a nice callback to the series, always welcome that. And Brienne stepping in to vouch for Jaime, which I really liked, it was nice. I also liked how Sansa's kind of showing her chops a little here by deciding to keep Jaime on board, much to Dany's annoyance. Even Jon didn't care too much about Jaime being there, and I find myself rooting for Jon a bit more every episode. He may be the bathroom sign, but this season I find him to be a bit more agreeable than before, and he has a point. They do need everyone they can get. This is true. I also do love the waning trust that Dany has in Tyrion, and you can't help but feel bad for the little guy. He is trying his best, but the show does put a little doubt in you that he could be doing slightly better than he is now. Though, I gotta say, I am a bit disappointed that they didn't bring up the time he charged at Dany on the caravan battle and almost got roasted by Drogon. However, I can forgive this because Jaime didn't take any punches lying down in this trial. He stood his ground, especially to Sansa, and he too had a point. It was war between houses, and he did what he could to preserve and protect his family. I liked the trial. I thought it was well done and well said. Obviously, they could have always added a few more things here and there, of course they could have, but what we got was good enough for me. Next up was Arya and Gendry's little scene. I do love them showing how good of a blacksmith Gendry is, especially with the dragon glass. But what I didn't like was Arya coming in and her little line about wanting to see all of Death's faces. Like, come on, are you serious? At this point, I feel like every conversation she has with any character is a pissing contest. Almost like she's trying really, really hard to convince anyone she speaks to that she's a super badass, and you should definitely watch out for her amazing skills. It came off really cringy for me, which kind of sucks because I didn't mind her last episode, but oh well, you can't win them all. Next up is Jaime and Bran, and I've got to say this is one of the best scenes of the entire episode, and I'm happy most of the good scenes in this episode have to do with Jaime, because he is one of my favorite characters. This is the final reunion I was hoping for at Winterfell, and I think it delivered. I'm sorry for what I did to you. You weren't sorry then. Ooh! Oh, got him! But seriously though, like, what's up with most of these scenes being super short? This was one of those episodes I feel like they crammed a lot into, and mostly to get the Battle of Winterfell out of the way, but I am glad this reunion did come in so early into the episode. But Jaime and Bran hit the right notes for me as well. They said what they needed to say, and Bran made a good point, and a creepy one as well. If he came out and told them what really happened, then Jaime wouldn't have been able to help them, to which Jaime says, "What about afterwards?" And Bran comes in with the, "How do you know there would be an afterwards?" Which can either mean that Jaime will die before the show is done, or my thoughts on there being a time reset will come true. I doubt Bran is just saying these things to troll. He actually means that, and I love how friggin' ominous it was. Once again, short scene, but I think it was definitely one of my favorites this time around. However, the one thing I'm a little confused about is that, if I recall correctly, in either Season 1 or Season 2, I believe it was the end of Season 1, after Robb Stark is crowned King of the North, Jaime does confess to Catelyn that he did push Bran out the window, and when she asks why, he doesn't tell her. And then, later on in Season 2, Robb comes to threaten Jaime with Grey Wind, and Robb just assumes it's because Bran caught Jaime with the Queen, and that's why he pushed him out. However, I could have sworn that Robb told everyone that it was Jaime behind the whole pushing thing. So I guess Robb didn't tell anyone, it was just kept between the family, and by the family I mean him and Catelyn. I'm a little confused on that, but I'm sure someone in the comment section can shed light on this. And continue on through the Jaime train, and I'll make this brief because I'm sure by now you know what I'm going to say, but Jaime and Tyrion, I liked it. I've always liked these two together, every single time they're on screen in the past, especially the callback line from Season 1 about Tyrion's perfect death, which back then was said with Bronn, and I also enjoyed, as usual, the interaction with him and Brienne, which I gotta call bullcrap on. I'm pretty sure they've had long conversations without, the need for him to insult her, though the fact that he shows her a huge amount of respect is always nice to see. We can tell that this is a different Jaime and he's ready to make amends. And before anybody says it in the comment section, yes, this does feel like episode 1 dragged on into this episode. For the gamers in the audience, this feels like DLC for episode 1. Why wasn't all these Jaime scenes in the first episode? I like to think because HBO loves ending most of their Game of Thrones episodes on cliffhangers and holy shit moments, and I feel like episode ended just like that, and quite frankly it was perfect, so what can you say? Next up, we have Jorah and Dany and then Dany and Sansa. Once again, both scenes I really enjoyed. Mostly the latter. Jorah coming in and vouching for Tyrion was pretty cool and very adult of him to do. He wanted to be the hand, but by stepping aside and realizing that Tyrion was a better choice, does take balls. The fandom does give Jorah some flack for being the lord of the friend zone, but hopefully after this season, that title can change a bit. As for Sansa and Dany, I really liked Emilia Clarke's performance here. She has stepped it up a bit for this season, and it does show. She did convince me that Daenerys is in love with Jon, and I also love Sansa's guard here as well. It's a pleasant conversation between the two, especially the bit about Dany's former love interest who was slightly taller. Not to mention, Sansa does have 2 good points, the first being about men doing stupid things when they're in love. I would know. Was in love this one time, ended up in Mexico with wet socks, my hair dyed blue, and a strange briefcase. Long story short, hot blondes will always be my kryptonite. But no, she has a point. Not to mention Dany's conquest here and her goals do conflict with what Sansa wants for the North, and it was a cool scene until Theon shows up, just to make it all the more better. I loved it. I wasn't crying, you were crying. But I gotta say, I can't help but once again feel bad for Daenerys. She really does have bad timing, and Winterfell is definitely not her scene in so many ways. Next up, we have the courtyard scene, followed by the War Council. And yes, I am skipping the Gilly and Davos scene. For those of you who are new to my channel, just don't ask. But the final reunion is between Jon and his old friends, Ed and Tormund. Not much to say about it beyond the fact that Tormund, so far, has the best lines this season by far. However, the War Council here, I feel, is the most revealing. Bran is the Night King's target, and I feel like that's not really a big reveal, though some Game of Thrones clickbaity YouTubers will have you believe it is. I feel like everybody kind of knew that already, but the biggest shocker for me is that there have been many Ravens in the past, and that their goal, the Night King's goal, is to erase the world. Sam coming in here and offer some clarity for the audience felt as though he himself was a Game of Thrones YouTuber, though I do like that callback to Season 6 about the Night King marking Bran and knowing where he is at all times. I also do like the confirmation that this has been a war between the forces of the Raven and the Walkers for quite some time now. Many people love spouting theories that the war was between the Raven and the Lord of Light, and that the Night King was the agent of the Raven, but at least in the show, this isn't true, and it's now confirmed. Not to mention, using Bran as bait would be their best course of action, though I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the Night King being the control ship from the Phantom Menace, and everything else being the droids. I just need to see how that plays out for it to work perfectly. I also love how Theon comes in and offers to protect Bran in the Godswood, and we definitely know how that's going to play out. Rest in pieces, good buddy. And Dany coming in and praising Tyrion was a nice touch of pace. I do like that she is taking Jorah's advice and seeing him for what he is. And I gotta say though, the battle plan seems solid, but I do love how they ask about the dragons, and they look to Bran for counsel on this, and he says, "I don't know. Nobody's ever tried." And I gotta say, it's not a good sign. Look, I've played games before where it requires intense cooperation, but when the guy in the group who knows everything all of a sudden knows nothing, yeah, that's fucking scary. But as the council comes to a close, something happens that makes me so angry it ended before we got anything from it, and the only conversation I really cared about happening all season, Bran and Tyrion, and they cut away just as it was getting good. Dick move, Dave and Dan. Dick move. And I want to say one thing about the Missandei and Grey Worm scene. One of them is definitely going to die, and I feel like it's Grey Worm, or both. Because nobody has a nice scene like that in this show with nice music and survives. It just doesn't happen. And if it does happen, then I'd be fucking surprised. But come on, this is Thrones now. It's a little Hollywood. Let's be clear, without the books, it is. And as cute as that scene was, you might as well just stop the show, come on screen and say, "They're goners," and then press play. Come on, you guys really need to, like, make this a bit more subtle than that. Come on, guys. Like, now you're not even trying. And I gotta say, while the scene between Jon, Sam, and Ed was pretty okay, I loved the scene between Tyrion and Jaime before the others came in, and even then, it was just made all the better. I can't say much about it, but what I will say that it was fun, especially Tormund, who at this point probably replaces Bronn as the most fun on the show this season. Once again, they gave him all the best lines, and I hope he survives the whole thing and keeps getting all the best lines. But I gotta say, what really got to me the most in this scene, and nobody watching this can say they didn't like it, was Jaime knighting Brienne. Honestly, that was a bit of a tearjerker for me. If you're gonna sit there and comment that it sucked or whatever, then I have to ask, why are you still watching this show? Like, I get it, it's not as good as compared to previous seasons, but come on, like, that was a great moment, especially with them clapping and the happy look on Tormund's face. Like, it was just a really good moment in the episode, and you have to admit it was. Afterwards, we get Arya, the Hound, and Beric, which was nice, but then I'm left wondering, what the hell just happened? So the next scene is part 3 of Gendry and Arya so far this season, and I feel like the writers read enough fanfiction online to make this happen. And I gotta say, this is the biggest surprise of the episode. I highly doubt that was Maisie Williams' naked body, but I don't know, it just felt so wrong watching that. We've been watching this actress for over, I know the actress is over 18. I checked profusely afterwards, but watching her on this show for the past 8 years and just looking at that scene, it felt so weird, but I'm so glad they got together. Like, I'm so mixed. It just makes me wonder if Gendry dies, will she bear the last Baratheon child? A couple of you guys were getting on my case last time for mentioning the callback to season 1 with Robert telling Ned that he has a son, Ned has a daughter, they'll join houses, so aha! Callback confirmed to be legitimate, kinda. But, like, I will be honest, at first I thought Arya was just messing with him to get him naked and then run off with his clothes or something, but that would have been silly and would come out of nowhere and just kind of ruin it, but I don't know, I don't know if I should. There's the whole Arya Gendry thing. I don't know if I should clap, cheer, or delete my browser history. Like, I don't know. But it did make up for the cringiness earlier, because she's constantly trying to have a pissing match with everybody, so this definitely made up for it. I did like the whole, soft, tender moment between them. It was cute. After that, we get the scene a few people have apparently been asking for, Jorah and Lyanna Mormont. For what it was, as annoying as Lyanna is now, it was not bad, but the best part is Jorah and Sam. That's the friendship I never thought I wanted. It was born out of stupidity with him curing the grayscale, but it really did pay off into something cool. I did like Sam giving him the sword, but I felt bad afterwards when he says they'll see each other later, which, once again, rest in pieces, Ser Jorah, because I really feel like that's what's gonna happen. And before our last scene, Podrick sings a song, and it did kind of hit me a little. It was incredibly somber, reminding me of the scene from Lord of the Rings when Pippin sings the Edge of Night song as Faramir charges forth to take back Osgiliath. Incredibly somber and just flat out great. Binge watching this season when it's all over will make this song hit even harder when episode 3 comes around. And the last scene we do get is Jon and Dany, and you'd be lying if you said you weren't on the edge of your seat wondering or not if Jon would tell her, but he did, and Dany makes a fantastic point. The greatest secret in the world, and his brother and best friend know about it. Honestly, she's right about that. It's suspicious as all hell, but before their conversation could finish, the horn bells go off, and now, I knew this would happen. I called it in my episode 2 preview breakdown. I didn't read the leaks or anything, but I fucking knew they would do something like that, because this is a conversation I wanted the most, right beside Bran and Tyrion, but it all closes with a bunch of walkers on their horses, and the atmosphere was perfect in the end. It was great, especially the song, which really drives me crazy how HBO did it, but they did it again. They made me super pumped for the next episode, and I can't friggin' wait. And before we wrap this up here, I gotta give a big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. It's a platform that's intuitive, easy to use, and it's one of the best, if not the best, website building service out there right now. There's nothing to patch or install or anything like that, and their award-winning customer service teams are standing by to help you out if you need it. Whether it's for business purposes or you just want to make your own Game of Thrones fan website, they've got you covered. You'd be as crazy as the Mad King himself not to take advantage of this offer, and they're so good, I would rate them 5 Targaryen dragon heads out of 3. They're so good, it grows 2 more heads. So head on over to squarespace.com to get a free trial and use code REDTEAMREVIEW for 10% off when you're ready to purchase. Link below in the description. But overall, I thought this episode was fantastic. I did like it a lot, much more than the previous one, which I would give a 7.5, but this one gets an 8. My one complaint's there being no Littlefinger. I don't care what you say. Littlefinger not being in every episode, automatic 1-point reduction. But this episode was fantastic setup for the Battle of Winterfell. For the non-stop fight that the next one will be, once again, I get that many of you don't like this show now compared to previous seasons, but you gotta admit, what we did get was pretty good, much better than the previous episode, and I hope the streak continues with Thrones. But as always, let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Be sure to ring that bell to stay notified and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And guys, please, let me know what you thought of the episode and definitely leave some questions down below for my follow-up Q&A segment. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.